Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, September 19th, 2018, and welcome to the RotoPros breakdown of this afternoon Champions League main slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. My name is Rob, Sir Robert 6 on the main sites, and welcome. Let's quickly break down today's main slate like I was talking about. I'm really excited for it. I think there's a lot of edges here, and I think there's a lot of things that we can take a look at. So let's, you see I got my bathrobe on, my lucky bathrobe. So let's jump right into this. Let's do some screen sharing just like last time. Take a quick review of how the games went yesterday. Atletico Madrid and Dortmund, excuse me, both found results. I guess you could say this was pretty predictable. I think I called this to a T 2-1 Atletico Madrid. I obviously preferred them getting the clean sheet, but that's a pretty obvious score line and something that we can continue to expect for the rest of the tournament from Atletico Madrid. Dortmund was rather surprising. I expect them to concede and score more, but it's never really a surprise when a team goes to Belgium. It's never an easy task. And obviously, Monaco and Club Brugge took the losses. In the Group B, which was the early slate, Lionel Messi obviously did Messi things. And it was basically a day, if you didn't have Messi, you didn't win. So unfortunately for all the people who jumped on the fade train in the full day slate, that didn't really pay off. But I myself stuck to main, so I didn't really have to worry about this too much. But more entertainingly, for anyone who doesn't like Spurs, which should be a large amount of you, hopefully anyways, Inter Milan came back and beat Spurs in the final few minutes. Really, it was an excellent game, pretty entertaining. But really the entertaining game of the tournament was Liverpool versus PSG. Again, 3-2 game, called it pretty well perfectly. Was really surprised that Firmino didn't start and then came on and scored. I figured at some point he'd be coming on the field, but it just goes to show you that well, it was frustrating for me throughout the whole slate. A lot of people still had Pulisic, the American, on Dortmund in double ups, even though he didn't start, and so his goal pushed me to the very edges of cash, but I managed to scrape right back. I think I was the very last pay, and all my cash is for double ups this slate. So I was at the end of the day, you just take what you can get, really. But Napoli sure didn't. Really disappointing game overall. Again, I kind of spoke about this quickly with Arsenal, and you just don't walk into Serbia, especially Red Star Belgrade, and come away with a win. 55,000 fans all screaming the exact same thing at you, and none of it's pretty. So, yeah, it wasn't really a big surprise. I highly recommend people check out some YouTube of walking out into their stadium and the intimidation factor. It's pretty incredible stuff. So I'm not entirely surprised, but yeah, everyone knows that Napoli should have won, and this pretty well spells the end of their tournament because assumingly they're going to lose to Liverpool as well. And then PSG, all they have to do is basically get one goal on Red Star and win, and they're immediately through. They're guaranteed through. Napoli have absolutely no chance whatsoever. So they basically ruined their tournament in the first day. They're basically done. So I'm interested to see how Napoli approach the rest of the games. They're probably going to get absolutely shell-shocked by PSG and Liverpool, but we'll worry about that when we get there. And finally, the Group D. This was another game. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I was all over Galatasaray in a cash and GPP. Akbaba, Rodriguez, Deredic, the striker. I had them all. Nagamato, Muslera was my number one keeper. So I won't pretend yesterday was an overall unproductive slate. There was a lot of points to go around, but I was very pleased with how things went, especially on FanDuel. Incredibly well on FanDuel. But DraftKings, I just scraped by. So I was really happy with Galatasaray. They were incredible. They were on the back foot most of the game, so they did lots of defending. Everyone got points. It was a good DFS showing. And then Porto and Shellac drew 1-1, obviously, which, again, wasn't that big of a surprise. So I was kind of hoping Porto would get the clean sheet. Alex Telles, my main lock of the slate, missed the penalty shot in the first minute. And considering that I could have went Telles Tellez, and then the Rodriguez goal from Akbaba, I would have been uncatchable if Tellez got the goal. And I know a lot of people are on Tellez, and rightly so. But that penalty shot miss, especially in DraftKings, really hurt. Really knocked people back fairly heavily. I don't want to review too heavily on my former cards here because I still have my active cards in play, and I don't want to. Actually, know what I can. We'll scroll down here, and you can see this was my main cash card, and I went with Neymar. Reyes, obviously. I'm not going to use the language I want to use, but yeah, he was not a pretty showing for me whatsoever in cash, and was obviously Dortmund in general very suboptimal decisions. But we'll talk about that a little bit here when I look at my FanDuel. But obviously, Koke was a cash lock for me, and the assist really helped. But Akbala was another lock for me. I know a lot of people went Calgary, especially on FanDuel, and I don't blame them for that. But I just felt that this discount was much better. And Koke was way too cheap given his crossing and corner outputs for Atletico Madrid. I thought about going Griezmann, but that basically meant I had to drop one of my two wingbacks. And obviously, I was in love with Mario Rui and Alex Tellez and Muslera. Obviously, again, the main goalie for me in the slate, and Hans Van Aken. I went with him just because his salary was so obscenely cheap. It was only $3,500 there, so I couldn't shy away from that for just some easy production. And 7.5 in cash, that's more than enough whenever it allows you to afford obviously guys who didn't go off. I got lucky, in truth. I think I still like my card. I love my card, actually. But Neymar should have done better in terms of cash output. Like I said, 13 to 15 would have been better, and Ruiz really hurt me. I won't tell you what I was going to do, but it was way more optimal than Marco Ruiz. It just wasn't a cash decision. So anyways, you can see my my GPP entries there too. I didn't, it doesn't look like I played a lot. It was a big cash entry, just a big double up there, twice, excuse me. And then you can see my my GPPs here. And this was really close. I was pretty happy with this. I fell onto Derek. I wanted to follow more. Abukbar came off way too easy. Abukbar. Oh my God, Abukbar. Sorry, I just woke up. I work nights and I took a little bit of a nap before making the video, so my language still isn't kicking full gear. Obviously, Jordan Sancho was the biggest disappointment of the day. I took a lot of risk on him. I definitely wanted to go over on him in the hopes of catching other people. But yeah, I like Diego Costa a lot. I knew he was probably going to take a card, but at the same time, his goal upside is always there. And Salah, definitely, that goal would have sent me into the stratosphere with this card. I know he was highly owned, but I still felt that I had a lot of ownership edges with Derek was extremely low owned. So I just really liked where that card ended and how it looked going throughout. But in terms of my other GPPs, they weren't great. The Oblak goal really hurt, and Ospina not getting any saves or the win really hurt as well. But this was the big one right there, Jordan Sancho, and it was kind of the same issue on FanDuel. I won't get too deeply into those cards, but yeah, it wasn't that bad of a situation at all on FanDuel. Let's see if I can find one of them here really quickly. Yeah. So this was my main FanDuel card. I went with this in cash and I just threw it into a GPP. Obviously, I was trying to throw mine into GPP, but yeah, I don't think my history looked too great. I just started playing FanDuel this season, actually. This is my very first season on FanDuel. For anyone that's interested, I live in super rural Canada, like super rural Canada. You can Google it. It's called PEI, Prince Edward Island, Canada. And for a few years there, FanDuel and I had a few discrepancies over whether my province actually existed or not. Province is the American version of a state. So I filled out the verification form again, and they recognized me this year. So I'm pretty excited about being able to play on FanDuel again. That wasn't always the case. I was stuck on DraftKings for years. So it's pretty cool to be actually finally playing FanDuel for once. But yeah, that's last slate. Let's get into this slate. Let's check out the groups again here really quickly because there's more important things to check out. In terms of the actual schedule, we'll start with that. Ajax and the AEK are in the early game, and so is Shakhtar and Hoffenheim. Now, I've been getting a few questions about this. I want to make something very clear. I'm not playing the early slate or an all-day slate. It's not that I don't. Last slate, I didn't like it. I'll be 100% honest because I knew if you didn't own Messi, you were doing nothing, and there were still so many other huge names that I wanted to play throughout the day that you wouldn't have been able to afford with Messi. So, Shakhtar Donetsk. I'm just going to touch really quickly on this team. They are quite honestly one of the most DFS friendly teams in the entire world. It's too bad right now. Their captain and wingback Sarna has been suspended for quite some time. He for doping basically, but in terms of actual like Ukraine. So I was going to say Ukraine. I wanted to just show everyone. The thing with this is that I'm not sure how many of you are into politics, but this is considered largely to be the hardest away trip for any professional soccer team in the world in terms of geopolitical issues. You have to make all sorts of different plane transfers. It's an incredibly long trip. You have to zigzag throughout the route for a lot due to protected and closed skies that commercial airlines aren't allowed to fly over because they're in open warfare at the moment. This team in particular had to move their stadium. They didn't move their stadium. They moved from their home stadium 2 hours away because their home stadium was just a war zone, constantly under threat. So this is not a trip that you just, like I said last week, if you think the Serbia trip or the Turkey trips are hard, very few in the world are considered harder than the Shakhtar Donetsk trip. And Hoffenheim doesn't have that big of a deal. They're coming from Germany, so it's not the end of the world. It's not like a Portuguese or Spanish team or an English team. Ask Napoli last year. Even Italy struggled. Napoli lost in the first match day last Champions League season in the group stages to Shakhtar because they're a really good team. They love to cross the ball. So I don't want to get too deeply into it, but my favorite play is easily Ismaili, their left back. He takes a lot of their corners. I haven't checked the salaries or anything like that, but I can almost guarantee you right now he's going to be somewhere between a 4.8 max salary to a 4.2. And I have no problem with him in either format. He doesn't need a clean sheet bonus to get you 8 fantasy points. Hoffenheim are, in terms of this season, have been hot garbage. They've started incredibly poorly. So you can expect Shakhtar to handle this game probably to the tune of 2-0. I like a clean sheet bonus against Hoffenheim. So Ismaili's easily one of my favorite plays if I was going to play the all-day slate, but I don't plan on it. I wouldn't even mind the Shakhtar goalkeeper if it's who I think it is. Yeah, Pyatov. Excellent keeper. No issue with him in either format either. He's proven. So don't worry. I'm just speaking off the cuff here, assuming he's starting, assuming he's not the most expensive keeper of the slate, all those meta plays. But if you're looking for a couple early all-day slates, I would stack Pyatov and Ismaili because that trip to Ukraine, ladies and gentlemen, is not easy. It's not fun. Unlike the Turkish where you're afraid for your life and Serbia, you're afraid for your life from the fans. Like, there's just a lot of things that as a professional athlete are completely out of your control that you are at the whim to. And that's not something easy to focus. So excuse me, Shakhtar. Great team. Have a look at them for the early slate. Let's get into the main slate here today. I am in love with this slate. I think there's a ton of things to do. Here's the first thing, though. There. You're just going to have to do this today. I'm going to talk about this first and foremost because it's going to define how you're going to build the rest of your day. 11.3 is a massive amount of salary when you consider some of the different names you can get in here. But the fact is that Valencia aren't a team that's going to stop Ronaldo from getting 8 to 10 shot attempts and 6 of them on net. They aren't a team that's going to stop Juventus from absolutely dominating the game. Now, I want to touch shortly on Juventus. I will when we get to their game, but basically Ronaldo still stands. It's like Neymar last slate. You just can't fade it. He's looking at least a floor of double digits, 13 points in cash. GPP, I would definitely support a fade. I will get to that, like I said, when we talk about Juventus, but in terms of cash, you have to play Ronaldo today. It's not really an option. He is full throttle. What he's doing. He scored 2 goals on the weekend. He's back to taking all the crazy amounts of shots in every game. That's again, this is Real Madrid stats. So you can see, yeah, there's his actual. Excuse me. Yeah, 9 shots, 3 on target, 2 crosses, and scored 2 goals. Both Juventus goals against Sassuolo. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. He's absolutely back in play. He's absolutely back in form. 11.3 is a big ask. But here's the thing. Aguero's probably not playing. And not only is he not playing, Man United, or excuse me, sorry to any fan out there. I apologize. Any city exposure is going to be pretty condensed this slate because if Aguero doesn't play, that means Jesus is probably going to see close to, if not 90 minutes, and one winger will. Either Sane, Mahrez, or Sterling should see 90 minutes. Again, Kevin De Bruyne out. Bernardo Silva's probably not playing. That means David Silva's probably going to see 90 minutes. Gundogan's probably going to see 90 minutes. Fernandinho, never really an option anyways, but going to see 90 minutes. You know, he usually does. Mendy, look at their left back situation. Mendy, Danilo, and Delph are all considered to be doubtful at best this afternoon. So people are expecting 1 or 2 things to happen. Either City's going to convert back to their 3-5-2 formation where they just play with the 3 center backs and Kyle Walker will push up into the midfield, or Zinchenko will be playing at left back. Now, this is where he's a wing back. Don't get me wrong. That's where he came to City and they've kind of been converting him into more of an attacking winger. So it wouldn't surprise me if he starts as a left back because City just looked better with the 4 at the back. I think most people will agree to. Now, Lyon isn't exactly the kind of team that are going to make them be afraid of going to 3 at the back. And yeah, I'll get there. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, City are really injured, so we could get some 90-minute games especially if Aguero isn't even on the bench. Jesus is an absolute must-play in either format at 8K on DraftKings. It's indisputable. He's your number 2 with Ronaldo. Anyways, we'll get there. We'll get there, Rob. Calm down. Let's start very beginning here. We'll start with Bayern and Benfica. So Bayern are going to be traveling here to Benfica in Portugal. Not a serious trip. Not a whole lot to be concerned about here. Benfica have started the season kind of meh. Bayern are absolutely in form. Neuer is still one of the best keepers in the world. Kimmich is still one of the best wing backs in the world. However, I'm not really looking for him in cash this slate. I really feel like I should be. But if you're getting Ronaldo in there, you're better off just going with someone like David Alba. Because, again, they're pretty hurt, and we should be looking at a solid 90 minutes from both Alba and Kimmich. Hummels is in doubt. So Boateng makes a pretty interesting one-off at only 3.5K. Benfica are good, but Bayern are still Bayern Munich. So it's getting pretty solid. You can see they're not very healthy again. So Tolisso just tore his ACL over the weekend. They're going to be seeing 90 minutes, most likely. So Rodriguez, Mueller, Robin should be starting as the three attacking midfielders, with Mueller in between those two, and probably Martinez. It's hard to say who's going to be in the middle with him at this point. Probably Thiago Alcantara. I don't mind 5.8K, but at the same time, I would rather just stick with Rodriguez at 8.5K is massively underpriced. Now, I'll be honest here. Bayern isn't a team that I've put a million hours of research into yet in terms of the slate. I focused on a lot of other teams because obviously everyone knows everything about Bayern. We know Lewandowski's what he's going to do. We know what James Rodriguez offers. We know who Joshua Kimmich is and that he scores goals like a forward does, and we know Neuer is one of the best keepers in the world. So this isn't brand new news. Excuse me, breaking news to you guys. There we go. That's better to say. But yeah, we can take a quick look at Benfica here. Sablar's been their keeper for the past few seasons, but I'm not really interested here. Unfortunately, there isn't really a whole lot against a side like Bayern, even at home. PC is pretty interesting because he takes a lot of the set pieces in the corners, and I've had some success with Salvio. He's an extremely attacking winger for Benfica, but Jonas is another interesting player too. He takes their penalty shots, 4.9K. He's supposed to be coming back this slate from injury, and they also have Ferreira, and I don't think this is the Ferreira that was on Feyenoord last season, and I'm pretty sure that's a different guy. Maybe it's not. Yeah, it is. I was thinking he was on Feyenoord. No, he was on Shakhtar Donetsk. Like I was saying, there you go, the war in Donbass. Anyways, yeah. He was an incredible forward for Shakhtar, super target man, very tall. So I expect him to see some minutes too. And Bayern aren't exactly the most focused of teams throughout 90 minutes, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if anyone here. Seferovic has seen lots of minutes throughout his Champions League career too, but Jonas interests me a little bit from 4.9K. He's a pretty established player. I'm pretty sure he's even their captain. So 4.9 is a little bit cheap for me, and I wouldn't mind GPP single on that. But yeah, that's the first game breakdown. Bayern should really handle this to the tune of 6-1, 5-0. When you have guys like him, it's just going forward at all times. You're looking at a 2-goal output production kind of thing from at least his chance creation. So this really hasn't changed, in terms of he's already scored. I think he scored a goal this season already. So yeah, his salary isn't great, but it should be 7.6, not 6.7 over on DraftKings. So yeah, he's worth if you can fit him in. Definitely get Kimmich in, but I found it a lot easier to get Alba into my cash cards this slate. Moving on to the next game here, we have Lyon taking the trip over here to Manchester City. Easily the biggest favorites of the slate. Manchester City are, excuse me, but as I was speaking on, they're hurting. So basically, yeah, the situation is Ederson's going to get the whole game basically no matter what because Bravo's hurt. The whole left back situation's hurt. So whoever starts at left back, it sucks that we have to look at Zinchenko as a midfielder, so he won't get a clean sheet bonus. But at the same time, 4.8K is a good salary for any player on Manchester City who's going to get 90 minutes. But I'll just quickly show you what Lyon has to offer here, and it's basically a couple of midfielders. There's some talk about Mendy. Some people are liking Mendy, but Depay and I shouldn't just say Memphis Depay and Naber Fekir. Those are the main threats here. French. Both of them are French, kind of on the outskirts. You probably recognize Memphis. He played for United there, and really was a. I don't want to blame. There's a lot at play more than just his play, but Memphis didn't make it at Man United, and he's back at Olympique Lyon now. And yeah, that's really what they come at City with. It's going to be these two, and they're both world-class talents. I think they may surprise a little bit people, a few people. Excuse me. They're definitely too cheap in terms of the type of players they are, but City are just flames right now, and not only that, they're super optimal this slate. Again, if Aguero doesn't play, Jesus is the must play of the slate at 8K because he's going to see 90 minutes leading the line up front. And like I said, one of these three is probably going to see 90 minutes. I'm not real. Probably Sterling. Well, it's tough to say, right? Because yeah, it's tough to say. I don't want to really pin a suggestion on which one's going to see the 90 minutes because Sterling is probably a little bit more used. But again, Sane started last slate and played the 90 minutes for the first time, played all season. So it wouldn't surprise me if Mahrez and Sterling got the start. And probably Mahrez sees the 90 minutes. I wouldn't even mind him in cash from 8.6K. But again, 8K is just that 600 salary is a big difference when you get to keepers in your cash builds. So that's really what I'm looking at here with City is definitely Jesus. And seeing what the winger situation looks like. I don't mind David Silva, honestly. I don't know how effective he'll be against Lyon. But in terms of the wingers, I'm all about the wingers there if you can find one of them. Moving on to the next game, and this is easily going to be the game of the slate in terms of if we're going to compare something to Liverpool and PSG, and it is Roma taking the trip to face the Ronaldo-less Real Madrid, or as their coach has been calling them this week, the not real Ronaldos, the Real Madrid. But yeah, this slate, really interesting game. Should be lots of goals. Both sides are absolutely packed with attacking talent. Real Madrid have not been good this season in their own back end. They've been conceding at a rate that could only suggest Roma is going to get at least one here. And when we're looking at who's going to get it, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Dzeko, but we'll talk about that here in a second. First off, their goaltender's Robin Olsen, the Swedish international. He's like 6'6". He's a monster. You probably recognize him from the World Cup this summer. 3.7 isn't that bad against Real Madrid, to be 100% honest. Even at home, is he going to win? No. Is he going to let in? Is he going to be blown out? Lyon sure have a chance of being blown out. Benfica have a chance of being blown out. Valencia don't really, but at the same time, neither do Roma. They've been really bad at the back too. That's their big weakness here. They've been conceding as well. So I'm not really looking at this in terms of how many goals will they keep out. They're probably going to let in 3, but in terms of how many saves he's going to make, that may be interesting in cash. You may be able to make enough salary difference there in cash. I'm not going to do it, but 3.7K. Robin Olsen's a good enough keeper. Kolarov is obviously going to draw a lot of attention from 5.3K, even against Real Madrid. My concern is that last season against bigger clubs, he kind of dropped off a little bit. You can see Chelsea had really good games, but like Atletico, anytime he faces a stout Spanish side, it usually doesn't go very well. Again, you can see Shakhtar, they're very composed at the back too. Like these scores are good, but they're not good enough this slate to beat guys like Kimmich and Marcelo and even Cancelo on Juventus, the former Spanish international. David Alba should outscore him easily. I think Luke Shaw's even coming back at 5.1. So like, yeah, Kolarov's great, just not against Real Madrid. It's just not ideal. Florenzi's interesting. Both these guys are interesting in GPP in the sense that, like, we finally get Florenzi at a defender. He was usually listed as a midfield, so we were never able to get any kind of CS bonus. That's obviously not going to happen here, but it's something to consider. In terms of maybe getting an assist. Kolarov getting 5 crosses and an assist off the goal isn't like the craziest ask. And while that isn't something to chase in cash, you can follow on GPP. Andrew's been taking a lot of the corners on the right-hand side. 5.4K, excuse me, is pretty cheap for someone that's he's super skilled too. He kind of stole a couple of the slates last Champions League. That Shakhtar game in particular was pretty good from 5.6, but and the 8.5. But he doesn't usually see a lot of minutes, and that's the main concern here from last season. But this season it's a different situation. So I don't mind that. 5.4K isn't the worst thing in the world. Justin Kluivert, you may recognize he's the son of Patrick Kluivert. Incredible. He will be an incredible player here in a few years. He already is. And Pellegrini's another player. But I'm not really interested in any of those guys, unfortunately. De Rossi's coming back. Him and Steven Nzonzi will take the center midfield role, no doubt. Nzonzi, French, just won the World Cup with France. And De Rossi's obviously I think he's even the Italian team captain right now. Wouldn't surprise me. Daniel De Rossi is an Italian legend, but he isn't the kind of DFS player that you may be looking for this weekend. But yeah, here's your guy, Edin Dzeko. If you're unfamiliar with Edin Dzeko, he's played for Man City during their very first championship. He's monster, 6'4", 230 pounds, massive guy, strong. Not obviously the quickest guy in the world, but that's not why you're rostering him. You're rostering him because Kolarov usually takes 11 crosses in a game, and they're generally at Edin Dzeko's head. Bosnian, excellent player. I have no problem with Dzeko and GPP. Excuse me, 6.5K is a really cheap ask because Real Madrid haven't been that good at the back. So in a GPP, if you're looking to kind of completely duck ownership and still get world-class talent, I think Dzeko makes a really interesting option this slate. And with Parati out, it's expected El Shaarawy is going to get the start here. And again, 5K isn't that crazy going up against a Man City team that are especially hurt at the back. And I believe El Shaarawy will be playing on the right wing, which is the left back of City, the area where they've been hurting. So interesting to see how things line up here with the starters. I keep talking about City. It's Real Madrid. I'm sorry. Jeez. I'm thinking about Dzeko, and Kolarov used to play for Man City. Sorry about that. But yeah, in terms of this game, El Shaarawy going up against the Real Madrid wing backs is kind of scary. And Edin Dzeko, like I said, should still get the goal here against Real Madrid. Let's take a quick look at Real Madrid. They actually have a complete toss-up for which goalie is supposed to start right now. Nobody really seems to know. If it's Courtois, I'm probably going to take some love on that. That $100 could make a big difference later on. But in terms of defense, Marcelo is incredible. Against Roma, though, it's more of a GPP option. I realize Real Madrid are still going to be highly owned, but in terms of cash, there's just too many other options above and below him that are better than Marcelo. Against Roma, there's not going to be a clean sheet bonus where every other guy offers you that at least. So Carvalho should be on the other wing. I'm really not into either of them. And like Sergio Ramos at 4.7K, it's always great getting a center back, but like 4.7K won't even pay off from a goal. You'll need a goal and then some. And all he really scores from are set pieces like penalty shots or heading in the odd corner. So I'm not really looking for that for 4.7K. That is an interesting option to me. But in terms of the midfield, Asensio is their main player now. 7.7K is probably too cheap, even against Roma, when you're the main player for Real Madrid. Cruz is probably still going to handle a lot of the free kicks. I'm hoping Cruz doesn't start and Modric starts. That generally means that Modric takes all the free kicks and the set pieces from 4.6K and instantly becomes the cash lock of the slate. If this takes place and Cruz doesn't start, you're basically being given a free option to play Ronaldo. So keep an eye out for that. Modric 4.6K. I still don't even mind him by himself. Obviously, he doesn't really put things out. Not in cash, excuse me. This would be a GPP swing. But what my hope is that Cruz doesn't start and Modric does and takes all the set pieces. It's unsure who's going to get out in the wing between Isco, Asensio, and Lucas Vasquez. Another problem is they kind of all alternate set pieces with Cruz in terms of like crossing set pieces and corners. I think Isco is probably the more dynamic of the three, but Lucas Vasquez will probably be the cheaper, better option of the three. And like I said, Senzio is the heartbeat of the team now. So it's hard to say. You know, Gareth Bale's probably too cheap at 9.9. He deserves to be a little bit more expensive because Roma are way too attacking minded to really keep him in check. I'm not really interested in Benzema because I never really am, and it's never cost me. I think one slate he scored 2 goals before. Yeah, exactly. The most against Bayern and against Apoel. I was on him that day, thankfully. But it's just not the kind of guy that you want to put money behind. And these minutes haven't really significantly changed that much. With the departure of Ronaldo has helped in terms of their identities. But it wouldn't surprise me if Benzema gets 90 minutes. He's just not against Roma. He's not the kind of dynamic force I'm looking for this slate. I would much rather spend up to Bale or drop down to even Cruz. I would take Cruz and GPP before I would take Benzema. But that's how I feel about those two. Probably a 4-2 game, Real Madrid, 3-2, 4-2, much the same. I think it won't be as close as the PSG Liverpool game, but it should still produce enough goals that you can game stack this actually pretty easy. And I'll show you that whenever we get to a little bit of skeleton look later. But excuse me. Next, we have the games here between Plzeň and CSK Moscow. So Moscow making the trip to the Czech Republic to play Plzeň. Much like yesterday, Moscow Russian teams all do the exact same thing, especially on the road. They don't score more than 2 goals, and they usually let in a goal. So that isn't really any. What's funny is that CSK have kind of defined that meta stand. They are the team that have made this true, and Akinfeev is one of the most experienced keepers behind Buffon and Casillas. He's the Russian team captain, the national team captain, the CSK Moscow team captain, and he has only kept 1 clean sheet in forever. You can see he got a couple back there too, but I think it's in 99 games he's only kept 6 clean sheets or something like that, and half of them came in last season's Champions League. So 4.5K, I'm just not taking the chance on that away from home. He's too well known in terms of anyone who's played Champions League, DFS last season's instantly going to recognize him and probably going to click his name. So I'm just not interested in that for either format. He's probably going to let in a goal and not make enough saves. Someone I am looking at, excuse me, for either format allows you to spend up is Mario Fernandez. Now, in terms of how CSK play 3 center backs and 5 midfielders, 2 up front. It's usually Nabakin and Fernandez who play on the wings. Fernandez on the right, Nabakin on the left. But the problem is Shinnikov and Nabakin rotate minutes, as well as who's the other name that Vlasic's seen some minutes out there too. So you're not looking at a 90-minute game except for Mario Fernandez. He's played literally every minute this season. He basically played, excuse me, every minute last season for them in Champions League too. Excuse me. So you can see exactly why I like Mario Fernandez. 3.8K. CSK aren't the most exciting team in Champions League, but in terms of getting it done in order to spend up to Ronaldo, Mario Fernandez is easily one of my favorite plays of the entire slate, really. But their midfield is kind of they don't cross very much. So that's the issue here with most Russian teams. They're not big crossers, and that is much the same with Fernandez. This is his ceiling in terms of crossing. You're not going to get many more than 5 crosses in a game, and that was against the wide open Basel team. So I don't know. Obviously, I like Mario Fernandez, but when you get to the midfield, you can't really expect these guys to be making a ton of crosses. They're a showdown team. CSK, most Russian teams are incredible showdown teams because their advanced pass counts are generally through the roof. So very consistent. Dazagov, again, a Russian standout, a national team standout. Doesn't get the kind of minutes you need in DFS, though. And that's generally the stand here with a lot of these guys. Sigurdsson, Dazagov, Efronov, they generally come off the field at really suboptimal times. Abel Hernandez is hurt right now. He got hurt last weekend. He's not expected to be playing this weekend. So it's going to be that name, Zam Latinov. That actually was a lot easier to say than it looks. Zam Latinov. Anyways, he should be getting the start with Chalov. And Chalov is, again, a very popular player. If you used him at all last season, you'll recognize him. And he wasn't getting a lot of minutes last season because CSK Moscow, like their 3x2, always took off one of their forwards, and it was usually Chalov. And unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, now fortunately, we're getting almost 90-minute games from them. And considering this is a pretty important game, they need this win. I don't expect them to do anything but come out with their full roster. And Chavlov at only 4.4K. He's not a cash play for me. This is the situation that I talked about yesterday where DraftKings does a lot of their pricing on last season's results, and Chavlov came off the field every game last season. He's probably not coming off the field this game. Same with Samuel Doletov. 4.6K, 4.4K. I definitely wouldn't look to stack them together. I wouldn't look for it in cash, but in GPP, 4.4K all day. Yes, please. The best way to afford up to Ronaldo this slate and still be able to get a really high-end card with some real bangers. CSK is easily my favorite place to go this slate because you're going to get serious, consistent minutes. And Pleasant, bless their heart, it's good to see a Czech Republic team in the Champions League, but it's not on for them. I'll give you a quick rundown of their team here. The main talking points are Resnick and Limberski are their wing backs, have played every second of every game so far this season. So I don't hate 4.2K at home. I think a lot of people are going to jump on Limberski, and while I don't blame you, I think he's 3.6 for a reason. I'm pretty sure he doesn't do anything but defend super hardcore as their left back. So if you're thinking about anyone from this game on the Czech Republic side, on the Pleasant side, Resnick is the first place I would go because he's not coming off the field, and he is pretty reliable back there in terms of actually getting a couple crosses, where Limberski has no reliability whatsoever to even put a cross in. Kopik plays a little bit in the left wing, gets subbed off a lot. That's generally the running theme here with Pleasant. They take off 3 players every game, and it's 2 of them are 2 of their 3 attacking midfielders. So really, I'm not really looking at it. Kovarik, Kopik, Cermak. They do have one interesting name here that has kind of caught my attention a couple times, and it's Patrick Kowalski. He plays a defensive center midfield, defensive kind of style. He's their team captain. He's probably not coming off the field, but more importantly, he takes their penalty shots and he takes some of their corners. I haven't been able to figure out exactly yet who takes their free kicks. I'll make sure to put it on my Twitter this afternoon whenever I find out exactly who it is. But as far as I can tell, Hersfowski is absolutely someone I'm keeping on my radar from 3K. I don't expect him to go out, and all you need is 9. If you get 9 from this guy, you can literally do anything. You can take down. You can make your double ups. You can win your head-to-heads. 3K isn't a big ask against a side like CSKA, who with a goalkeeper like Ankifiev is probably going to let in a goal, and probably from a set piece. So I don't mind him. I like that 3K, interesting play. So that's a little insider information for everyone out there watching the video. I hope you like that, and hopefully he pays off for us. I'm going to be using him in a little sparsely. I don't think if I have to in cash, I'm going to. That may be where he's supposed to be played. I don't care. 3K is just the kind of salary for 90 minutes at home on set pieces. However, again, sparingly, I'm into that. But the last one is their forward, Kremenik. Again, 90-minute player, doesn't usually come off the field. A big body, 6'3", 6'2". You know, they're a cross-happy team again. This is why it kind of upsets me that Kopik and Kovar come off the field so often, because they have a target man up front, and all they do is cross the ball at his forehead and hope he nods it into the net. And guess what? CSK is really bad at preventing people from doing that because they only have 3 backs. So, yeah, I like this game a lot. Excuse me. It's a resounding 2-1 scoreline again. I'm not sure which way. It could go either way. I'm inclined to say CSKA just because they're the more experienced of the two, but you can never really hate on that home meta. And someone, yeah, like I said, Horovsky from this game is someone I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Don't do it because I told you. Do it because you're in a situation that it's more optimal to take that kind of risk. And I assure you, with the kind of front-ended salaries that we're going to have this slate, taking a 3K guy is absolutely in play. Unless, of course, you're going with the Mario Fernandez play. Honestly, in cash, do both of them. Why not? Yeah, that's literally dirt cheap. 6.8K, and all you need is both of them to score 6 points, basically, and you'll do absolutely fine. But yeah, that's my take for this game. I'm going to say 2-1 Pleasant, but both teams should concede within the first half. It's going to be fairly boring to watch, especially with this game. But yeah, it's something to consider. Moving on. We have the Man United and Young Boys. Now, I'm not going to complicate things here. I'm going to be very straightforward and let people know how Man United play in Champions League. As you can see here, this game really resounds for me pretty heavily. This was last season. Mourinho was still, I think, only like 5 games deep or something like that. He had really great results against Basel and CSKA, so everyone was obsessed with the concept going into the third match week that they were going to travel to, Benfica and do well, and they didn't. It was a disaster. And their Basel games were, where's the other Basel game? It isn't even on here because it wasn't on the main slate. When they had to travel to Basel, they lost. So basically, the way Man United play, much like Juventus, who I'll talk about in a moment, is to beat every team by no more than a 2-goal scoreline. They want to win 2-1, 2-0, 1-0, and keep games very low scoring. This is a disaster for DFS. That basically means no ceiling. When Man City are out there scoring 6, or Bayern scoring 6, or this game totaling 6 goals, Man United's 2-0 scoreline in a GPP is going to be absolutely useless, especially when De Gea only sees 2 saves all game. And that's if Man United do what they want to do. And guess what? It's probably not going to happen. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind De Gea for 5.5K. Luke Shaw is supposed to be back in the lineup. 5.1K is far too cheap for Luke Shaw. The poor guy keeps like flirting with career-ending injuries every other week. He was brutally knocked out cold there in the international break. He's supposed to be back. 5.1K. I got no problem with that in either format. He should do fine. Dalot may be getting the start here in the other wing. Wing back, excuse me. He hasn't played at all yet this season, but this is literally why they brought him in, is to play in Champions League to kind of give the rest on Valencia and Ashley Young. I'm not sure. Due to the artificial pitch they play on. Valencia had knee issues in the past, which would be hey, I support that, honest to God. My left knee is not existent. It's non-existent. So I respect where he's coming from with that decision. You only have to look back as far as Drogba when he signed with Montreal in the MLS. He refused to play at home because literally turf is just an absolute disaster. Trying to run on, fall on, it literally any kind of injury is just like an aggravating factor. But yeah, so I'm expecting Dalot and Luke Shaw to get the starts. Dalot does get the start, and you know that Valencia and Ashley Young aren't playing. 4.4K is incredible, especially if you want to triple stack the De Gea, Shaw, Dalot. You're saving major salary, especially on your defenders. They're probably not going to be that high owned, excuse me, not because they're in a bad spot, but just because there's so many incredible defensive options like Kimmich, Marcelo, Cancelo, David Alba, Carvajal. Kolarov is just going to draw ownership just because he's who he is. Alexandro, even Kyle Walker, especially if he pushes up into the midfield. So, like, there's just too many names before you get to someone like Dalot. In Champions League, people don't scroll down. Simple as that. They don't scroll down. They see the names and they click on them until they can afford it properly. So they're probably not going to scroll down. And when they do, they're going to see Sergio Ramos, and that's where it's going to end. They're not going to go to the 4.4 and see Dalot down there. So I have no problem with Dalot, especially in GPP. You want to stack those three. I think that's a pretty solid option. It'll be interesting to see how Man United line up their midfield. Fred's supposed to be getting the start. Again, when you want to spend up for Ronaldo, just click on Fred. There you go, 3.5K. And you only have to ask Shakhtar fans from last year how devastating he is. He hasn't played a lot in the EPL this season. When he has played, he's still done well. You can see last season, this is when he was with Shakhtar. Excellent player. And again, this is Shakhtar. So when you look at his salary and you're like, oh, 8 points isn't very good. From 3.5K, yeah, that's pretty awesome. 4.3K, 18 from 4.3K. That literally breaks the slate. You literally just won your slate. And mind you, he's not a defensive player in the slightest. He's very attacking minded. So if Fred gets the start today, yeah, it's really hard not to click on him and Dalot. They'll probably be on the same side of the field. So yeah, I'm really into that. I think that's a really sharp play, this slate. Even in GPP, I wouldn't stride much outside of Fred. And the reason, because like I just said, Man United don't score more than 2 goals. They just don't do it. They don't try to do it. If it happens, they're usually falling onto it where they got a couple penalty shots and a goal early in the game. I don't mind Lukaku from cash from only 8.3K. I think that's pretty sharp. Him and Jesus and Ronaldo together, I think, are 3 super solid cash plays for goals. They may not offer the crossing upside that people are looking for, but yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say Lukaku's back. He's in form. He's playable. Rashford's supposed to be playing too, which really interests me from 7.5. because again, you don't need a ceiling from 7.5K. You just need a really good outing. 20 fantasy points will do well, and that's totally in play against young boys. So that's something I'm considering with Man United. My concern, like I said, they don't score more than 2 goals, and they're just not very good when they go to Switzerland and they play Swiss teams. So it's and that's like a historical kind of thing. That's just not something that happened once. So I don't know. Young boys, I guess as a whole, Von Balamos could be used as a value keeper because, like I said, Man United aren't a ceiling team unless they fall on it. So 4Ks, I would rather them be cheaper in the 3K stuff. But yeah, I guess you can take that. And then when you're looking at the defense here, there really isn't a whole lot going up against Man United. They should have the game here. Kevin Babu obviously is a name that some people may recognize from Newcastle. Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't really like it at the same time, though. He is at home, 4.6Ks. See, I'd rather be down with everyone else. But yeah, in terms of the cash plays, I suppose he's still viable as a home defender. But yeah, it's just not where I'm looking. And the same could be said, excuse me, for the rest of their team, really. Suleimani, again, another name that a lot of people will recognize. He played a little bit last season and he did really well. It's just, yeah, Man United are not only do Man United not play for ceiling, they shut down other teams really well too. And the other teams don't really find a ceiling. And like you can look at these salaries and say, oh wow, that's really optimal considering how bad Man United have been this season. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of other forwards down that salary range that still offer a lot more. The CSKA goal upside, Chalov. I like those 2 names a lot better going up against Plzen than young boys at home going up against Man United. At least CSK has a 2-goal upside. Young boys will be absolutely pushed to their max luck to get 2 goals in Man United. And if it does happen, they're probably winning the game 2-0, which would really draw me back here before it would draw me anything up here. So yeah, I think Von Balamos could be. I don't think he is a sharp play. He could be because Man United just aren't going to score a lot of goals no matter who they're playing. But yeah, not the keeper I'm looking for this slate. I think for cash, I'm going to be mostly trying to stick on the Ederson train and maybe a little newer. But yeah, we'll get there a little bit because this final game is really what I've been waiting to talk about, and it's Juventus at Valencia. So generally speaking, my first plan of action in DFS has never been to draft or pick Szczesny. And it's never affected me negatively. But the thing is this week, well, in general, let's talk about Juventus. Much like Man United, they don't press ceilings. They don't look to get 4 goals. If it happens, they're falling on it through set pieces kind of thing. But things have changed. Things have changed with Ronaldo in play. It changes absolutely every faction of Juventus. They have 6-goal upside now, simply on the fact that he's going to take enough goals or take enough shots to produce that. I like Szczesny since he's not the most expensive keeper, and he's on the team that I expect to win most handily of the entire slate. And that's saying a lot, but I know Bayern have a relatively easy game, and Man City or City, and Man United, whatever, against young boys. But there's nothing to suggest right now that Juventus aren't the best team in the world. There, I said it. I went out and said it. They've started the season incredibly. In terms of DFS-wise, they crossed the ball enough to make good production. Pjanic from 5.8K. I don't, yeah, like, here's your cash card there. Like, then start filling in the cheap guys. Because 5.8K, Pjanic is one of the most, I know Ronaldo's here now. Pjanic's one of the most talented free kick takers in the world, bar none, easily. It's tough to see exactly how they're going to line up and start everyone. Douglas Costa's, I didn't realize he was suspended for this. I thought it was purely domestic. Yeah, exactly. Douglas Costa is going to be playing 90 minutes. He spit in someone's mouth last weekend against Sassuolo. So I expect Costa to play the full 90 minutes because he's not going to be playing for the next 4 matches in their domestic league. So I still like Pjanic from like a defensive standpoint. It should be him and Kadira. It wouldn't surprise me if Blaise Matuidi gets in there too, but Pjanic's definitely, I'm praying he gets the full 90-minute starts and gets a fair amount of free kicks. Emery Can's there too, and he's obviously very talented. That's the thing with Juventus is that it's kind of tough to know exactly how they're going to come out here because they're so talented. Even Mandzukic, oh my God, I need to go back to bed. Mandzukic, oh, my mouth just isn't working. We all know who he is. 6.6K is just far too cheap for a player of his caliber, especially with the cross-happy situation Juventus find themselves in. So, yeah, I don't find any reason not to play Ronaldo. Pjanic, if he's starting, get him in your cash lineups from 5.8K. That's just way too cheap. Cancelo is a former Spanish legend. Or is he Portuguese? Jeez, I think he's on the Portuguese team. I know he's really old. I know I can see his face right now. He played for Real Madrid for years and years and years. No, that's the younger one. This is the other one. Who am I thinking of? The other Cancelo. Anyways, well, that's slightly embarrassing. I did this yesterday too, where I completely mixed up a player. Cancelo is a different player that I was thinking he was. He's still incredibly talented. You'll see. He's not a player you want to overlook by any means. Takes a lot of the corners. But in terms of this game, Alex Sandro is where I'll be focusing a lot of my cash, really, 5.2K. I like their stacking option with Szczesny. He hasn't had the best floor, but if you look at Juventus outing last season, they had to play Real Madrid, Spurs, Barcelona, Lisbon, which is no cakewalk either, and obviously the Olympiacos. This hurt a lot. I was all on him in the first match late last season, and it really didn't pay off. But yeah, I like the stack option with Szczesny. Cancelo is probably someone you're going to want to get in there too. I think the three of them make a really sharp GPP stack because Valencia are not a team that are just going to roll over. They're going to give you lots. So Diablo, I'm not interested from 9.4K. I know 7 crosses. He was out for a bit. So the thing with Diablo this season is that he's kind of, yeah, exactly. The coach is still trying to figure out the best way to get him and Cristiano on the same format, basically, because they're doing the exact same thing. They would be stealing each other's production. So I'm just sticking with the Ronaldo for now. My hope is that Diablo doesn't actually play against Valencia. He hasn't really been featuring too much recently. See what Pjanic's saying. I should actually, yeah. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah. Yep. That's what I need to read. So yeah, Pjanic's really the guy that you should be looking to smash with the slate, especially in cash. But finish it up here with Valencia. You can always take the keeper that's facing Ronaldo because you know he's going to see a gazillion and one saves. But at the same time, Ronaldo played against Valencia for seasons there, and he had no issues with them whatsoever. So it's not really someone I'm looking to pick on this slate. I know Picchini took a lot of corners and crosses last season, so I have no issue looking at him. He isn't really, obviously, this slate against Juventus. It isn't the first place I'm looking, but 3.5K, again, when you really, really need to take that chance in GPP and something super cheap to just get you 8 to 10 points. Bikini's always an option there, though. I'm not great against going against Juventus. Gea will be their other wing back, Jose Gea. My concern about him is he's a little fiery in terms of the cards and the fouls and getting sent offs, that kind of thing. So he isn't the first guy I'm looking at. Guedes is someone that should draw a lot of people's attention here. He Portuguese, played with Ronaldo up front for most of the World Cup this summer. Young kid, exciting. Same with Perio, another Daniel Perio, another really familiar name. Isn't someone that against basically anyone else in the group, I'll reconsider this. But yeah, not against Juventus. Juventus are just too stout and way too good a form right now to go looking at Cheryshev. And again, the Russian, not only the Russian, he was basically the whole reason Russia did anything this summer. So again, if you're looking for someone 4.7K, 5.1K, these guys 5.7K, there's three guys that played basically every second of the World Cup this summer for their countries. Portugal, I want to say Argentina, maybe Uruguay, Spanish. Yeah, my bad. Still, more than talented, more than capable. Daniel Wass is another name that I recognize too. Another guy who isn't completely inept of playing the game of football. Yeah, exactly. Against Atletico Madrid. So yeah, I doubt he'll play, but yeah, just another name I recognize, wanted to throw out there. And Moreno, obviously, Rodrigo Moreno is the main threat up front with Guedes. Batucci should get the start. Kevin Gamiro still in the mix too. He's an old timer. I guess you could say that. He's been around forever and ever. But I'm expecting Bastui to get the call up front here. 5.4K isn't a lot, but against the defensive capabilities, Juventus, like unlike some other teams this slate, for example, Roma, Olympique Lyon, Man United, to give you a few ideas, Juventus have been on another level and compared to every single one of these teams, especially defensively. Chiellini is still fully functioning as the senior citizen that he is. Rugani, Daniel Rugani, still a future star in Italy if they can get themselves together. Bonacci, again, legend. So, like, yeah, I'm just not looking to pick on Juventus despite the obvious talents and skills that Valencia possess. They could very easily score a goal. I'm just more comfortable with and this is saying something, I'm more comfortable on the Szczęsny side of things. So I just want to take a quick little look here at the groups. So yeah, basically the situation here is that Bayern are going to walk all three of these teams. It shouldn't be a complication for them, and we don't really have to worry about it until later when Benfica play Ajax and AEK, and then they have to start worrying about who beats each other worse in order to get in second place. For Group F, this is one of the reasons I like the Shakhtar-Hoffenheim game, and I like Shakhtar. This is another battle for second, and it's probably between Hoffenheim and Shakhtar. So whoever comes out on top here, and Shakhtar aren't a team that are afraid to play for the win. So yeah, look forward to that in the early all-day slates. But yeah, Man City, again, should walk this group, and it's a battle for second. And it should end up being who starts beating Lyon the worst. Again, here's another situation where Real Madrid and Roma meet first, and the Plzen CSK Moscow. And CSK Moscow has to win this game if they have any hope whatsoever of finishing second in this group behind Real Madrid. And it starts here. Obviously, if Roma find a result, CSK and Plzen are basically done no matter what. I don't really see that happening, but Real Madrid should walk this group again. And Roma should come out with the second. And it shouldn't be too complicated. But considering the most defining game is CSKA's first game, and they're a 2-1 kind of team. This isn't really an exciting group to worry about. But unlike this group right here, this is, like I said earlier, it's going to be a matter of who beats Young Boys the worst. And Man United have the first shot that the slate. Juventus need to win. If they don't find a result against Valencia, they could be in serious trouble. Going up against Man United and needing a result isn't always the most fun thing you could look to do, despite Man United's obvious weaknesses. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing Ronaldo play Man United this season in Champions League. That'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, in terms of this slate, Man United are going to need goals to solidify their second place over Valencia, because Juventus should finish first here. That's the problem with Man United. They're always doing suboptimal things. They're not going to look for goals, though they need them. So they're probably not going to get them, and they're going to need them, and they're probably going to fall behind. It wouldn't surprise me if Valencia finished second in this group. Probably won't be decided this week, though. But yeah, that's really my breakdowns for this slate. I didn't look at FanDuel here. We'll do that really quickly. We'll look at some price differentials like we did last slate. You see who's up top here. Pretty obvious. That's too expensive. There's just no way. He's historically a concede keeper. They're just as likely to score on themselves as Pleasant would score. Like they should concede. Interesting to see how highly priced Robin Olsen is, even over the Real Madrid keeping options. So that's pretty interesting. See Nito's up pretty high here too. Then Svlar. So yeah, it gives you an idea. The differences. I don't see any major mistakes. So there's no real edge there, I don't think. Newer, probably where I'd look first. Newer or Chesney at 6K. They're all 6K. That's a bummer. I really only like the 6K keepers here. Maybe if Courtois or Navas get the start. Oh, that's really cheap. They must be expecting Roma to do some damage. I do too. Real Madrid have been a nightmare at home defensively, but still, let's take a quick look at defenders here. Kimmich should probably be first up there. You can see why Sandro exactly so highly priced over here. So that more of a reason, I think, to take him on the other side. Keep looking here. Obviously, I want to see David Alva. Again, that's a reasonable price. Luke Shaw, reasonable price. Interesting. I probably won't be doing it. Marcelo, no way again. No. There he is. 5.5K. That's super reasonable for 90 minutes. Let's see what else we got here. Gay is there. $90, Pleasant, 5K. Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, FanDuel. Wow. Just to recap here. Fourth most expensive defender. Most expensive non-5K defender. And Cancelo is all the way down there on FanDuel. Wow. Okay. So I think there's your first mistake on FanDuel that you can probably take advantage of. And it's Jorge Cancelo. If he gets the start out wide, whew, that's quite a play from that salary. There's a Piccini. See who else we can find here. Boateng, interesting from 5K, especially if Hummels is out. He's going to be asked to do a lot. There's another. Oh, we got him as a defender. Oh, my gosh. Oh, FanDuel, thank you. Oh, there's your lock, folks. Especially, oh, please, come on, soccer gods. Give him the 90-minute start as left back. Oh, that would be beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. 4.5K. So that's definitely something to remember. And there's Dalot, too. There's your three defenders on FanDuel, folks. Dalot, Zinchenko, Cancelo. I don't really see any other reason to go outside of those. They are so cheap, and obviously a mispricing, a huge mispricing. I know. Some players, obviously in FanDuel, are priced. As I was saying, this is my first season of FanDuel. I know they're priced a little bit differently for a reason because there's different scoring systems here, but that's just too cheap for someone who's going to be 90-minute player on a caliber of Man United. And he's a good player. He's Diogo Dalot's a very fast, good player. Cancelo on the biggest favorite of the slate next to Man City, in my opinion. My opinion, my favorite of the slate. And there you go, the favorite of the slate. So that's really good defensive options for FanDuel. Obviously, the big guns are the big guns, and they're up there for a reason. But I don't really see why you want to spend up there when you can have some of these other guys here. You can see again, Modric's a 5-pass machine, so he's going to be priced a little bit higher. And again, Pjanic, you can see why those two, excuse me, are priced so low. And I was liking them on DraftKings. That's two excellent plays on DraftKings, especially if Modric gets the pure start. I understand their 5 pass bonuses are a little bit more valuable over here, but you see like Cruz, there's no reason why Cruz shouldn't be all the way up there too. So yeah, I really like that a lot. James Rodriguez, probably too cheap down here at 9K. Rashford, if he gets the start. Isco, way too cheap. And again, you see Fred down here at 8.5K. That's probably where he deserves to be compared to on DraftKings, where he's the 3.5K guy. So yeah, that's interesting. Senzo way too cheap over here at 8K. That's far too cheap if he gets to start. Something to remember there too. Let's see. Easy. What else do we have here? Wow, that's pretty cheap for Guedes, especially since he's a forward. I'm not sure about his minutes, but yeah, that may be a little bit too cheap. I have to think about that in GPP when I'm not on Juventus, because that could come back to be super, super valuable. There's Kopik. Like I said, though, there's Horvathsky, 6.5K over here. At least you know his ownership is going to be rock bottom. He's probably not cheap enough, in my opinion. Like, yeah, you could just take Fellaini, who's probably going to get the start, and have the same kind of like set pieces threat, except being the guy who heads the ball instead takes them. So obviously the foul issue there, but yeah, I'm not really crazy about that on this site. And there's Kovacic again. I wish he was playing 90 minutes. Because this is definitely the salary range you want to get him. If you see Maros Llorente getting the start for Real Madrid, don't play him. He's a super defensive midfielder, good enough guy, I'm sure, young kid, but he's just not going to get the 5 pass bonuses, and he's a tackler. That's basically his job. Same with Daniel Del Rossi. 6K may be a little bit 2K for someone of his caliber, but yeah, that's definitely not the kind of a player you want to just like push into your DFS lineups. Let's quickly run through the rest of these here, see if there's any other names. Okay, let's take a look at the forwards now. So yeah, obviously Ronaldo, 14K. That's super expensive. And like, if Guerrero doesn't start, that's a huge script outlier for everyone else. 13K is a massive loss to the way FanDuel set up their salaries. So that'll be interesting to see if he starts. But yeah, Benzema's up pretty high. You see Mandzukic, he's up here, 11.5K where he belongs, which kind of draws me a little bit. Maybe he's too cheap over there. Gareth Bale's too cheap on this site, even 11K. He should be up in the 12K range for sure. Gabriel Jesus, that's probably where he deserves to be, even if he gets to start for 90 minutes with Aguero out. Dzeko's down here. That's pretty cheap. El Shaarawy, that's pretty cheap for someone who may be getting the start. There's Chavlov again, who 8.5K. I like that a lot on CSKA. That could be really interesting GPP. Ferreira, if he gets the start, that's interesting. I'm not interested, but it's interesting. They're able should be out. Okay. Okay. Wasn't he way more expensive over here? Or am I missing something? No, 7.3 is not asking a lot over here. Sandro Wagner is someone who interests me in GPPs because he's like 6'6" and a massive body up front, and they just blast balls at his head. I'm not really expecting a lot. I would rather take Zamadilov with 7.5K for his 90-minute upside. Because Sandro probably won't see 90 minutes. Prati takes penalty shots for Roma. Looks like he's probably going to be out, but El Shaarawy getting the start. And then you see someone like Bashui down here. That's pretty cheap. That's pretty cheap. I'm not really interested. And then Kramerk again, 90 minutes. This guy's played every second all season. He's taken some penalty shots. CSK are going to concede. Akinfeev is not a clean sheet bonus kind of keeper. So I expect Pleasant to score. It's probably going to be Kramnik. 7K is a good option here over in FanDuel. There's Kevin Gamero. I don't expect him to play, though. I just like him as a player. Who else we got? There's Jonas again. Someone interesting to talk with just very quickly in the future. Moiskin is going to be a future star of the world. If you haven't heard about him now you have. But yeah, that looks like that rounds out the forward list here. I don't see anyone else that's obscenely cheap. But yeah, those three defenders, huge leaks in FanDuel. You're going to have to get them in, especially if you're going to want to do that over here. 14K on FanDuel makes some GPP viable because that salary is going to hamstring a lot of people. They're not going to be able to do it, especially if they start picking at any kind of City players. So I have no issue with Ronaldo in either format if you can afford him over here. But if you do that, like I said, you're going to have to go way down here. And we'll quickly do a quick skeleton here for both sites for cash just to see what things look like here. That's probably where I'd go. Hopefully he gets to start, assuming, of course. I want to just do the 5K instead. No, I think we'll stick with this for now. And if we, yeah, I think that's just the smarter play. And then who are some of the cheap guys over here? Under is interesting too. He's been taking some corners. But yeah, I am looking for. Wasn't really any huge leaks over here, was there? Gosh. Yeah, that's basically how I would start my defense anyways. I think my cash keeper this slate would probably still be Ederson anyways, which makes me kind of want to take Zelenkov instead Dalot or Cancelo. That way you can stack for the clean sheet bonus. And then the forwards, obviously, you're going to want to take Ronaldo. On this site, I think I'm probably going to Bale as my next forward, which leaves me around 6.5 each, which isn't a lot at all. Maybe. Gives you an idea anyways. There's a couple more guys there. You probably want to switch around a little bit. Maybe even use a cheaper keeper. It sucks. Like I said, I only really like the 6K keepers over here. Definitely Ederson's my number one. Neuer's my number two. Szczesny's my number three, but my GPP number one. And David De Gea is my number four, but my GPP number two, just because of the stacking options you have with them. Voidan Kiev, though, that's a little bit too high. Yeah, Real Madrid are letting too much at the back right now to be considered cash viable. So yeah, that's probably where I would go with my keepers, and that gives you an idea the rest of the way here. This is just something I kind of put in there. He's way more viable over here. We'll take a look at, but yeah, in terms of how you want to do your DraftKings, I'd probably go James Rodriguez over here. I think he's a little bit too cheap. And then we'll do this again just for the sake of being able to do it. Bosky, Fred. Kimmich. Just give you an idea. that still saves you a ton of money there, 5.9K. And then Horvath isn't even really a play. He's just someone I threw in there. So again, like lots of money here. I didn't even use my Manuel Fernandez on CSKA or any of the cheap forwards like Chavlov. Isn't really cash viable, but I definitely feel Manuel Fernandez is. And that allows you, again, to get a little bit more flexibility in your midfield, 5.1K. There's salary to be had here. You can drop Ederson for someone else that's more viable with your defenders. But I'm hoping Fred gets the start. That's really big for me. Ronaldo is huge. And another option, too, is Gabriel Jesus. Bale's just a little bit too expensive over here, especially to pair with Ronaldo. I think James Rodriguez's salary, though, is just right. But yeah, that basically is my breakdown for the Champions League. If this ran long again for people, I'm sorry. It wasn't really my intention to take up your entire afternoon here. But I'm really passionate about this. I put a lot of effort into learning about DFS over the years, and I don't feel there's a lot of content out there for soccer. So I'm more than happy to do this. And there's a quick little peek at good. I'm not screen sharing anymore, so you can look at my hair and not my cards that I'm actually playing today. But yeah, in terms of, I'm looking at Juventus a lot. It's really hard to look away from Juventus, especially against a team like Valencia that are going to make them get defensive too. But yeah, I showed you all my value plays on both sites. I really hope Fred starts. He's definitely my main guy this slate on DraftKings especially. Hard to deny that 3.5 on Man United. So yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Make sure to check out rotopros.com. Hit me up on Twitter, RadRobDiamond. Really, hopefully we'll be back here in October for the next Champions League. We'll be back this weekend for EPL and NFL. I'm really looking forward to NFL. That's what this is about, really, is helping you grow that cash bankroll for the GPPs this weekend in NFL whenever you get to change your life. So yeah, good luck, everyone. Hopefully, as I always, see you at the top. Best of luck. Take care.